I'm going to hit record now. All right, good. So I'm going to be diving into our first tip to give yourself permission to mentally thrive. The first tip is to start the day off fresh. Start the day off fresh. So take a deep breath, get into that rhythm, that routine of taking a deep breath every single morning, and think about, what am I grateful for today? What do I have that I can write down or mentally list, and really start to focus on the positive. And then I really think that quite often, sometimes I catch myself breathing very shallowly, not breathing as deeply as I know I should. So make a few mental notes or a few alarms on your phone to go off at different times of the day, maybe around lunchtime, maybe at the end of your day, that say breathe. And take 5 deep breaths and make that part of your routine. Think about, what am I grateful for and how can I just let it all go? And start the next day off in the same way. My tip number 2 is connect. Connect. So we know that oftentimes it's easier to do life on our own. Sometimes we don't want to complain. We don't always want to ask for help. But when we connect with other people, life is just so much better. So maybe if you're finding that, I'm having a harder day or I'm struggling with something, make that mental note, or again, force yourself. Maybe it has to be force yourself to call a friend, maybe reach out to a family member. Maybe it's checking in on a neighbor, because maybe you know that they are someone who's struggling. We all know someone who's going through a hard time and maybe is alone, doesn't have support. So sometimes when we think about others, we in turn will feel better when we reach out to others. You guys understand that, right? You've called someone thinking, oh, they're struggling, they really need me. And then you leave the conversation feeling so much better. So think about, who can you connect with? Some other ideas are to pick up a coffee, pick up some cookies, or make some goodies, whatever you like to do, whatever your language of love is, and maybe drop them off at someone's house, or meet someone for a walk, or go for a visit. So those are all ideas on how to connect. Tip number 3 is, I thought this was interesting, is to embrace your culture. So reflect on your heritage. What part of your cultural roots do you celebrate? So maybe it's specific traditions, maybe it's a spiritual background, your faith, maybe it's something to have to do with food and celebration. But think about, what are parts of your heritage that have been passed on to you that are important and that make up who you are. And then an idea for a fun conversation with a friend or family member is to talk about some of those traditions, especially if you find someone who has very different traditions than you. It's fun to chat about that. It's fun to get curious about people's traditions and find out what people have grown up with, what they're used to. All right, tip number 4, this is a good one too, is to continue to learn. Continue to learn. Nowadays, it's so easy to go online. It's easy to go on sites like Pinterest, like YouTube, and just type in anything that you want to learn. Maybe it's, how do I learn how to speak Italian? Or maybe it's, how do I learn the foxtrot? Or maybe it's something like, maybe you want to get back into needlepoint or try macrame. That's really in again. Whatever it is, whatever tip or whatever skill maybe you've been wanting to learn for a while, this is the best time to do it. And it's very easy to do it right at home too. Now, maybe that, some things are opening up. Maybe it's time to sign up for a course. I have an art class that I've signed up for again, that's in person, but I'm so excited about. There's something about being with other artists, people who are, doing their own thing, and you get to watch them with their techniques, and you get to be inspired when you're around other people. So find out, what is it that I've been wanting, that's been on my list since I first retired, that I maybe now can make the effort to focus on. All right, so that's tip number 4, learn, keep on learning. And then our final tip number 5 is to use your personal resources. So if you are going through a hard time and maybe you've been in a place like this before, we want to think about who is there, who's been part of your support system in the past, and what has helped you in the past. So maybe it is talking to a counselor, maybe it is a trusted friend, maybe it is reaching out to someone who's helped you before. And then also think about what are those things that I have done for myself in the past that have helped my mental health. So maybe that is exercising. Maybe this is new for you to start exercising and to connect this with mental health. Maybe it is going out for a walk. Now, today I've had a busy morning already, but I took Finley just down the block. That's all the walk he got for today. But I enjoyed that. Getting outside was so nice, and it was a beautiful sunny spot on the sidewalk where he stopped. And I just closed my eyes and I was, oh, this is so nice. It's so nice to be outside. So don't underestimate just, a short walk down the street. It really does make a difference. And then as well, just know that we're all going to have difficulties. There are going to be different times in our life that are more challenging, but I believe that if you have your list of resources, people, things that you can do that, really do make a difference, that can help you move through some of those feelings more quickly and also in healthier ways. All right, so those are my 5 tips for you guys. I'm going to tell you once again, and then if you want to share, let me know maybe which one of these stood out to you, or if you have other tips that you would like to share for mental health that have worked well, that you've heard recently, because I know there's a lot of talk about mental health right now, everywhere you look, and I think it's so wonderful to hear that. So again, my tips, tip number 1 is to start the day off fresh. So focusing on your breath, focusing on gratitude. Tip number 2 is to connect with those that you care about, or maybe even those you've lost touch with. Tip number 3 is to embrace your culture. What are some of those traditions? What are some of those values that are so near and dear to your heart that you can focus on? Tip number 4 is to keep on learning. What are those things that you can start? And it's a fresh new month starting tomorrow. So what can you focus on in the month of March? And then tip number 5 is to use your personal resources. So what are those things or people who've helped support you in the past, and how can you make that list so you're ready and can feel your best as you go through your day? All right, does anyone have anything they want to share on the topic of mental health? Now, I can't see everybody on my screen, so if you want to put up your hand, or actually putting up your hand is great, but if you want to just unmute yourself and speak, then that's even better. So which one of these was most meaningful for you? And anything to add? What do you do when you know you need to focus on your mental health? Do you tend to focus more on yourself, or do you tend to focus more on reaching out to others?
I'll start. It's Linda.
All right. Thanks, Linda.
Yeah, no, just very quickly, when you were listing your tips, I took one of them and separated it from the rest. When you said at the beginning, start fresh daily and take time to breathe, I think breathe has to be separate, because it is a really important part of a daily routine. You can start your day and you can go about frantically, or just go mindlessly around doing everything that you want to do. But stopping and breathing, as I discovered, is really important, especially somebody who's lived a lifelong asthma sufferer. Being able to breathe is really, really important, and being able to breathe well. So sometimes what I do is, if I'm going through my day and I'm going through my routine, and I sometimes stop, and I just stop in the middle of my hall or wherever I am, and I'll just take about 3 or 4 good deep breaths, just to kind of center and then I can go about my day. So breathing, I think, is a separate and important function of your day.
I love that. Thanks for sharing that, Linda. That's so, so good. Have you guys heard about box breathing?
Yeah.
No.
Okay, so I recently shared this with one of my clients because she's been wanting to focus more on her mental health, and this is a really great technique. So what you do is you want to think about 4, 5, 6. So 4, so you breathe in for 4 seconds.
No.
You hold it for 5 seconds, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and you breathe out for 6 seconds, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You can count a little bit faster if you find your out of breath at the end of it. But what it does is it helps to really slow your heart rate down. It really slows everything down. And I did this with her last week 5 times, and she was like, oh my goodness, this worked really well. And now she's committing to do it every single day. So it's called box breathing. You can really play with the numbers. So you can even start with, 3 seconds for breathing in, holding it for 4 seconds, breathing out for 5. We want to really think about breathing out and taking that time as you breathe out. Yeah, so that's another technique. Awesome. All right. Thanks, Linda. Love that focus. Really pushing the breathing should be on its own. I agree. All right. Anyone else want to share? Feel free to just often speak if you'd like to.
Well, I will.
All right, thanks, Ronald.
Yeah, well, the 2 of them I think me the most is keep connected with friends and family. So if you have problems, they can come and help you, or you can go help them help you. And the other one is to continue to learning. And here down in Texas, some of the local colleges, they'll offer inexpensive continuing education courses in art or language or some other thing like that. That helps a lot too.
Awesome.
And I've heard about that breathing, but they didn't call it breathing down here. They call it pulse breathing. I got that from, I have COPD, and that's one of the breathing exercises they give you to improve your breathing.
Okay, that's awesome. That's great. Yeah, great points. And about the learning about taking university or college courses, I know there is a website. A friend recently shared that with me where you can just take a course. I forget the proper name for it. Is it auditing a course? Yeah,
auditing.
Okay, yeah. So a friend shared that with me, and she said, hey, there's lots of business courses and marketing ones. And she was taking one on, connected to business, but there's ones, all sorts that you can take from Harvard and all sorts of universities or colleges across the globe. So yes, I'm glad you brought that up, because you can get really amazing free education out there. And why not? Why not take something, take a course? That's great. All right, thanks, Ronald. Anyone else want to share?
I give you one, especially in this strange time we're in. Turn off the news. Don't have the news on all day long. I mean, I'm in my 60s, and I remember growing up, we got our news in like 30 minutes a day, and we were perfectly well informed about what was going on in the world. We didn't have a 24-hour news cycle that consisted of us being bombarded with stuff we can't do anything about. So a while ago, I turned off the news, and now I pretty much spend 10 minutes a day catching up on things I need to know. My sister is 70. She lives down the street from me. She reads one newspaper, it's a big one, every morning, and then she's done with news for the day. We've both noticed that it's helped our mental equilibrium a lot. The friends that I know that are the most stressed out are the ones who have CNN or something else on in the background on TV all day long. I don't think it's good. And a corollary, I would say, especially with what's going on in Ukraine right now, that makes many of us feel so angry and unhappy and frustrated. If you can find something, a little thing to do, like I sent some money to an organization that is helping people in the Ukraine with their pets when they have to evacuate. Just if you can find a tiny way to do something positive, it is worth so many hours of just sitting there watching those talking heads kind of blather at you, I'm just saying.
Yeah, thanks for that, Connie. Thanks for bringing up that point, because I agree. Yes, yeah, it can be all consuming, and I've had to do that too. I don't like really have TV here, so I tend to tune in on, you know, other devices and get news through other sources.
And you can do
The
that,
same
yeah.
thing. You got to shut it off. You got to stop scrolling on Facebook. I find there's a lot of negativity out there, a lot of people with very strong opinions. And yeah, I think you just have to stop. My sister-in-law and brother, they deleted Facebook this weekend, and they said it's been the best thing for us. They've been listening to music from the 90s. They've been connecting with their children. And, you know, so I think we, like you say, do what you can. If there's something that you can do that you say, you know what, this is the way I can connect, or I can give back, or, you know, feel good about, you know, doing my part. But I agree. I think listening, we really do have to pay attention to our mental health.
There are lists, people are putting lists out now of organizations that you can contribute to support them in their help for the people of Ukraine. Excellent, good resources to have. But aside from that, you know, letting this stuff come at you 20 hours a day really is a form of poison, as the Buddhist, the Zen master said, you know, in his book about fear. So
it is depressing.
Yeah, and it doesn't get you, it produces no positive results at all. Why let that into your life? You know, I mean, this whole thing about starting the day fresh and doing positive things and keeping on, like I'm trying to deal right now with what I know is a food allergy. And the thing about an allergy is it makes you crave the thing that's bad for you. And it's so frustrating. And so there's days when I just like, oh, that with it. But you can't quit, you can't give up. And yet, if you consume popular culture and news, you will want to quit and you will want to give up. So I'm just saying, don't let it in.
Thank you so much. That's so good. See lots of people nodding along, lots of thumbs up. This is, yeah, good to share this info. All right, anyone else?
Yeah, I just want to add on to what Connie has said, that what I find that's even more helpful than reducing the news is that there are at least 20 international conflicts or wars that are happening right now in the world. And so what is not helpful for me is to zero in on one particular one. And instead of doing that, I look at peace in the world, peace in my heart, peace on my lips, peace in my brain, peace in my actions, nonviolent. Because when I consider the millions of people who are in war-torn regions, it's a more comprehensive view, and it helps me to not get overwhelmed with a particular conflict that is heightened by propaganda and failed media. So for my mental health, it's much better for me to focus on peace in the world, disarmament, for example, elimination of nuclear weapons, just a more comprehensive view of what's going on. So that's my first point. And hopefully that will help some of you too, rather than zero in on something, because, you know, we can get obsessive with a current issue. And for people who live in the Ottawa region right now, we have gone through 3 weeks of occupation and violence, right? So there's a lot of healing that needs to go on. So Meg, I really like these suggestions that you make from the Mental Health Association. And I just wanted to offer that I'm a retired mental health nurse and faculty educator. And so when you have multiple layers of stresses, they can be really overwhelming. And so, you know, if you can isolate a few that you can actually have an influence on, that can lead to sooner and better results. But if you try to tackle everything at once, it's really difficult, if not impossible. Like you say, Meg, pick one fitness and one nutrition goal a month I'd suggest that you try one of these suggestions that Meg has made, and that way you have a much better chance of having some positive outcome with that. Otherwise, it just becomes overwhelming, right? I hope that's helpful for people.
That is so helpful. Yeah, thank you. Thanks for sharing that, Carmen. Yeah, I know you're an expert in this, and I think that's a good point. If we can even think about for the month of March, what's the one suggestion or the one tip that I can focus on along with the other things that I'm doing in my life? I think that's great. That's a really good idea.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank
you. And thank you. I mean,
Mhm.
none of this is easy, but it is something that we can actually implement in our life. And you've really brought out some really good ones here. Yeah.
Yeah, thanks for sharing your perspective.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, Jane, I see your hand.
Okay, to follow up on Connie, one good website, if you do want to make a donation, is Canada Helps, because I know there was talk about the Canadian Red Cross and the Canadian government matching donations, but I did get an email from Canada Helps because I've donated through them before. And I got the email yesterday, and there are easily 10 to 15 different organizations. But I was thinking what Connie said brought up something that I think I will do today. Other than Canada Helps, I'm on lots of email lists when I've made donations before to different organizations, either be it for when a friend or a family member passes away, or just you see some kind of a cause and you make a donation. But I think I'm going to delete myself from all those lists, except maybe one or two key ones, because I feel like I'm getting bombarded. In the same way, I got to delete myself from some online shopping lists that I used in the beginning of the pandemic. And my daughter said, well, Mom, if you need jeans, buy them from Old Navy. Well, Old Navy easily sends me 2 emails a day and some 3. And I think I'm done with them. So I think that just listening to you other people this morning is going to get me to clean up some of the clutter that's raging around. And I have to admit, I have been a news junkie because I'm living alone. I keep CBC on most of the day, but then it repeats and it repeats, and you go to CTV and you see the same interviews and stuff. So I've got to be more mindful of that. So thank you for all your suggestions.
Awesome. Thanks for sharing that, Jane. Really appreciate that. Yeah, great resource. And it's true, the unsubscribe button is there. Sometimes
I've made a note, reduce email clutter.
Yeah, that's right. I know that could be a whole day's work there if you're looking to do something for your mental health. All right. Great. Well, thanks everyone. Thanks for sharing. We could keep on.
I have one more thing I'd like to say before we.
Oh, one more. Okay, Pam, you can close us off.
I was just listening to all of you, and it just struck me, if we don't get the first one right, the first tip right, we're never going to get to any of the other ones. If you don't start your day off fresh, if you, like, for example, this morning, for whatever reason, I woke up just bombarded with negative thoughts, like things that I didn't really want to deal with. And it kind of didn't start the day too well, let's put it that way. So certainly not starting off fresh. And I'm realizing that I need to combat that, because if I don't combat that, I get nowhere during my day. Like any plans or projects that I thought I'd tackle today, it's like, oh, who cares? I got some TV shows to watch. I could read a book that, is just like pleasure reading, not anything that's educating me. And I just thought to myself, you know, if you don't do the number one right, you're never going to get to the other ones.
Oh, thanks for sharing that, Pam. Appreciate that. Something that, I'm glad you brought this up. So thank you for speaking up before we ended. Because this came up in another meeting I had a while back. Linda, I believe you were there for that one. And it was what we were chatting about was those thoughts that come into your head. Often they're negative, often they're thoughts that drag you down. And a tip that's really helped myself is to just start to pay attention to those thoughts. So if you have a thought that's like, oh, you're never going to get anything done. Oh, you're never going to improve. Curiosity can change your perspective. So if you say, oh, I noticed that I just had a negative thought pop in. Oh, I wonder where that came from. I wonder why I feel like I'm never going to improve. And when you start to look at things in a different way with curiosity, it's easier to be gentle with yourself, and it's also easier to change the thought. So for example, if you have the thought, oh, there's no way I can do everything that I need to do on my list. If you step back and notice it, oh, okay, is that actually true? Is it true that I'm not going to get everything done? And do I need to get everything done? Or can I just start with one thing? And then what the next step would be is to replace that thought. So say, okay, that's not necessarily true that I'll not get everything done, but how can I reword this so that I feel more empowered? So maybe you can start saying something like, every day is a new day. I'm going to start fresh and focus on one thing at a time. Or, you know, our affirmation of this month, does anyone know what it is? I'd have to find it. I actually can't remember. I'm getting better and better every day. Something like that. I make healthy choices every single day. So getting those phrases into your vocabulary and becoming part of your everyday speech will really start to help. But I shared with Linda when we were talking about this, I said, oh my goodness, I woke up first thing having this very negative thought, and I caught it right away and I questioned it. And as I questioned it, I realized, actually, that's not true. That's not true. How can I replace it? So it is, so this is something else to try out, but it's pretty amazing how when we do become more self-aware, we start to listen to those thoughts and pay more attention, we can start to replace it. We can replace it with more positive thoughts and start to choose to repeat those things over and over. So I hope that's helpful. Yeah, it's definitely, you guys are not alone. I know everyone struggles in different ways with their mental health, and I just want to encourage you guys to keep going. Maybe make an action plan today, write down something that you're going to choose to focus on for this month. And if you do decide, let me know, send me an email. I'm here cheering you guys on. And you can also feel free to share this in our private Facebook group if you are on Facebook. Because again, we want that space to be a place of positivity too. All right, well, this has gone nice and long, but I think it's been so valuable. So I want to thank you all for being here today. And yeah, looking forward to chatting soon. Those of you who are looking for a little bit more, I am going to be hopping onto YouTube right now for A Minute with Meg, and I'm going to be sharing about why it's essential to enjoy your workout and how to do it in 4 steps. So I'm going to do that right now. It's going to be a very quick little Minute with Meg. So you can check me out YouTube, type in AIM Fitness Activities in Motion if you're not already subscribed to me there. All right, but I hope you guys have a wonderful start to the week. Great start to the month of March.
You.
Thanks,
All right.
Meg.
Have a great day, everybody.
Thank you
Thanks.
guys
Bye,
too.
everyone.
Bye.
Good to see you all. Bye-bye.
Thanks.